Pretty much every Phantom Muspah guide makes this boss look like an absolute sweat fest. 8-way switches, crazy spec weapons, and a gear setup worth more than my entire bank. Here's the truth though, Muspah isn't actually that hard. It just looks hard because people massively overcomplicate it. In this guide, we're keeping it simple, narrowing it down to 2 methods. A budget mage range switch for learners with a smaller bank balance, and a range only setup that is insanely chill, but it does need better gear to feel good. The mechanics are the same no matter what you use, so whether you're broke or balling, pick your setup, follow the steps, and you'll get your first Phantom Muspah KC. If this is your first attempt ever, this guide is made for you. Let's go through some essential info and requirements regardless of what setup you go for. Secrets of the North is a hard requirement to even fight this boss. I'd recommend 85 plus mage and range to make the fight consistent enough to be fun on a long grind, but if you just want a few KC, you can do it with less. 77 prayer is also huge for rigor and augury. If you don't have these prayers, you can still do the boss, but rigor in particular is a bigger upgrade than most armor pieces. Desert Treasure 2 is also handy to get done. If you've got the Ring of Shadows and the Icy Tablet, you can teleport directly to the prison. If not, you can get pretty close with Icy Basalt. Now we can help you decide on the right gear setup for you. The Mage range switch setup has a lower barrier to entry, but requires you to get good at gear switching. Honestly, it's my recommended setup for complete beginners. It's also the best for getting good in the long term. Switching is an essential skill in old school RuneScape. Here's my minimum recommended gear. A dragon crossbow, any mid-tier range set, top, bottoms and a hat, full eclipse, god dragon hide, Carills or Huey hide, mix and match if you need to, Ava's device, Barrow's gloves and a Ring of Shadows for both the stat boosts and the teleport capability. Bring diamond enchanted bolts as your main ammo, with sapphire enchanted bolts for one of the special phases. Rubies are optional if you want to speed up some early damage. Upgrades to the dragon versions are really good, especially for the sapphire bolts, but they aren't essential. Couple this with some decent mage switches and you're all good. A Trident of the Seas, a Book of the Dead, any mid-tier mage setup, top, bottoms and a hat. Arim's, Blue Moon or Bloodbark are ideal. Again, you don't need the set bonus. Feel free to mix and match. An occult necklace, an imbued god cloak and infinity boots. This leaves us with a minimal 5-way switch that's easy to manage, leaves room for food, and is more than enough to get consistent kills. If you're already comfortable with switches, obviously you can bring more, but this is the minimum standard that I recommend for learning. If you really don't want to deal with those switches, or you've got around 200 mil worth of range gear sitting around, I've got another option for you, the Bowfa D's method. If you don't know what Bowfa D's is, let me know in the comments. But seriously, all you need for the ranged only method is a Bowfa and full crystal. Without this level of gear, range only is going to feel awful, inconsistent, and probably won't get you the kill. If you've got this, whatever you're wearing in the other slots doesn't really matter. But obviously, wear the best range gear that you've got. An Anguish and an Avas are the key items, but honestly, you could probably show up barefoot if you're into that kind of thing, and you wouldn't have a problem. If you've got a Bowfa and Crystal, you know what you should be wearing already. For both options, you're going to want to bring a Bastion potion and at least 4 prayer potions. You'll also want a rune pouch with runes for thralls, greater corruption, and mark of darkness if you've got Arceus spells. If not, no worries, but they do make the fight faster and easier. The rest of your inventory will simply be filled with food. The more switches you bring, the less food you can bring. And as always, an emergency telly out in case you shit the bed. There is no getting around it. With 6 different phases, there's a lot to remember at Muspah. But when you break it down, each individual phase is pretty simple. When you try this yourself, recognize when you're entering a new phase, and apply the simple mechanics we're going to go through shortly, and you'll make it through. But before we do, if you're finding this useful so far, liking the video massively helps out the channel, and whilst you're down there, why not subscribe if you want to see more from me? I'm releasing new guides every week or two, and refreshing the old ones as the meta changes. I appreciate it. Here's how the phases work. Muspah will alternate between range mage and melee normal attack phases. She'll switch after taking 100 damage. Whenever she switches, she'll slam the ground and spikes will come out of the ground on your position. You need to move out of the way immediately. Even one tick late here will make the fight drag on if you mess up repeatedly. If you stand in the spikes when they spawn, you'll take damage and Muspah will heal. These spikes hang around though, and you'll need to avoid them for the remainder of the fight. Never forget the golden rule of old school RuneScape. Don't stand in the shit on the floor. In the range mage phase, Muspah is green, and if you're switching, you'll be using ranged. She uses auto attacks with range, but she'll also charge up her special magic attack. You'll need to pray ranged whilst dealing with the auto attack, and switch to mage when you see her charging up. Don't spam, one clean flick to mage, and back to range is all you need. I've got no idea why I've gendered Muspah as a female, but I'm sticking with it. If the ranged attacks hit you, it's pretty nasty, and tanking a magic attack is basically instant death. So get those prayer switches perfected. If you're in the melee phase, Muspah will be brown. If you've gone for the switch method, you'll want to attack her with mage here, so keep those gear switches tidy. Keep protect from melee up for this entire phase. Muspah will chase you around the arena like my 7-year-old nephew asking me if I've got any games on my phone. Just like my nephew, it's extremely important to tell her to fuck off and keep her distance. The obvious thing to do is to just run away. You can even try and freeze her with Undead Grasp. These are both valid options, but I'm going to show you the tech that trivializes this phase once you master it, the step back method. To summarize, if Muspah starts walking at the same time she attacks and you have protection from melee up, she'll always hit a 0. Here's what you need to do. Start moving 1 tile away just before she attacks. Muspah will hit you, the hit splat will disappear, click 1 tile away, your player will move. If you've done it correctly, Muspah will hit a 0. I'd advise you to practice this. You can just enter and exit the boss's arena, getting a melee phase and testing it out. It's not an easy mechanic, but once you learn it, it makes this phase basically free. If not, running around like a headless chicken is definitely a valid strat. I used it for a fair few kills before I got to grips with the step back. At certain health percentages, Muspah will initiate some special attack phases. At 75 and 50%, you'll get either the spike phase or the lightning phase, and at 127 HP, you're always guaranteed the Prayer Smite phase. After the Prayer Smite phase, the final phase is the Enrage phase. Let's break this up to make it simple. For the spike special phase, Muspah will make a bunch of spikes come out of the ground. However, these ones don't spawn underneath you. They spawn around the arena and chase you down. You can block these off by standing behind stationary spikes from earlier in the fight, or just kite them whilst you continue to damage Muspah. Kiting them is generally the way I do it, as keeping them blocked is tough during the melee phase. They'll stop chasing you and harden after 20 seconds. For the Lightning Cloud special phase, Muspah teleports around the arena like a Dragon Ball Z villain, and you'll have to avoid the storms flying all over the arena. Yes, you need to be out of the way, but you don't need to run around too much. Simple, controlled movements are the way to handle it. Plant yourself in a central area of the arena where you've got space to move, and watch for storm clouds coming your way. If you see one coming at you, move a tile, or maybe 2, and get out of the way. As you're in the center of the arena, you can continue to damage the boss during this phase, as your weapon should have enough range to hit him at most of his teleport locations without having to run too far. Squeezing in damage here massively speeds up the fight, but avoiding taking damage yourself is the priority. When the boss hits 127 HP, you'll kick off the Prayer Smite phase. Before she enters this phase, Muspah teleports to the center of the arena and charges up a massive attack. This isn't your normal magic attack that can be prayed against. You need to hide behind some of the hardened spikes to block the incoming damage. After this, you'll notice she's got a funky new health bar. Normal damage is useless here. You'll need to attack her with anything that drains prayer. If you've bought runes for Mark of Darkness and Greater Corruption, use them now. If you've got Sapphire bolts, this is when they go on. This is probably how I'd recommend most learners deal with this, but if you're feeling spicy, you can try the Smite tech. Essentially, when you're attacking, you want to keep your Smite prayer up, and when the boss is attacking, you want to keep up the correct protection prayer, either range or mage, just like the rest of the fight. This is optional if you've got the crossbow and sapphire bolts, but if you're using the no switch Bowfa setup, you probably don't want to be bringing a crossbow switch. This isn't really something you can explain in a video with words. Watching me do it here, practicing and getting a feel for it is probably going to be the best way to learn. But as a quick summary, keep range pray up until Muspah has launched an attack, then switch to Smite. Get used to the timing and switch to range just before she attacks again. If she starts charging up a magic attack, switch to protection from magic, then straight back to range. My brain does not work in counting ticks, and yours doesn't need to either. But if it does, have a look into some videos on Muspah's 5-tick attack cycle. Once you get a prayer shield down, you're almost ready to finish the fight. The final phase is just the ranged mage phase again, but with a spiky twist. After every 10 seconds or so, Muspah will spawn more spikes, gradually covering up the rest of the arena. This is a simple DPS race. Kill the boss before you run out of space to stand. Keeping thralls up at this phase if you've bought them really helps with consistency, and making sure you're not standing in a spot where you're going to trap yourself in a corner is essential. It's a mistake you'll probably make, but hopefully you only make it once. Leaving yourself an escape route is crucial if you don't want to fail at the final hurdle. That's everything you need to know about killing the Phantom Muspah. Piece all of those phases together and that's a complete kill. It's a fun fight with a lot of variety. It's not the most profitable in the game, but it's steady GP with some big ticket items. And it's definitely a valuable learning step on your journey towards the end game. If you've got any questions or need further tips, let me know in the comments. I always do my best to help out. Big shout out to my channel members and Twitch subscribers. If you want to give me some extra support, I massively appreciate it. But as always, liking the video and subscribing to the channel is more than enough for me. If you're looking for a welcoming PVM community, join the Discord and get involved with my clan. The link is in the channel description. That's it from me. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you next time.